Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Our next conversation is something with a difference. We're speaking about legal aid and advisory Trinidad and Tobago and their roving services. Joining us is Natasha Charles, Office Manager of Legal Aid and Advisory Authority in Tobago, and Lennon Grant, Legal Officer to Senior Legal Aid and Advisory Authority in Tobago as well. Good morning to both of you and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to have both of you with us on the show this morning. And this is something that's so exciting, specifically roving legal services. So let's get straight into that conversation this morning. Ms. Charles, let me start with you. What inspired the roving office and how does it fit into the mandate of the legal aid and authority?
Right. So good morning again, everyone. So here at Legal Aid and Advisory, we recognize that there are persons in particularly rural areas who would need our services, and then they may not have the means to come into the office, or persons generally who may not be familiar with our services. So we took it upon ourselves to visit our rural communities. We started in Tobago East. We have touched 7 to 8 communities thus far, and we would continue westward.
Wow, incredible. So that means there are some upcoming dates. But before we get to that, Ms. Grant, let's bring you into the conversation. Good morning again and welcome. What are some of the legal services that are provided by the LAAA?
Essentially, we provide legal services on all general areas of law, and in some instances, if it is you do require an attorney to represent you in court, then we are able to either represent you ourselves through the very capable, hardworking, and dedicated attorneys at the authority, or we will assign attorneys on our external bar. So generally most areas of law you can be advised on, whether it be criminal matters or matters generally in the civil or family arena.
Okay, and Ms. Charles, these services that were just expressed by Ms. Grant, these will be available for the roving services as well?
Yes. So at roving offices, we facilitate not just legal advice to anyone who comes through, but also applications for representation on the spot.
Okay, fantastic. Now, for those who are interested in applying for legal aid, is there any particular criteria that needs to be met?
Yes. So you may come into our offices or at the roving offices, sorry. You have to work with a fee of $50 and a form of ID. Now you may be appointed legal aid by the court, or they may recommend that you come through to our offices for application.
Okay, and when you come into the offices, is there anything you need to walk with in particular?
$50, a form of ID, and any documents that may be relevant to your matter.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for that. Now, aside from having to, now you mentioned that you can be referred to legal aid. What about if you come in on your own volition? Is there anything in addition that you would need to be able to provide?
No, the criteria is general. Whenever you come through the door, if you feel as though you have a matter that requires legal advice, you work with $50 and a form of ID, and we would facilitate you happily.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Ms. Grant, let's bring you back into the conversation this morning. As Legal Officer to Senior, are there any particular cases that you see the most when it comes to those reaching out to legal aid for services?
Well, in the Tobago space in particular, we see quite a bit of land matters, maintenance, and generally family matters on a whole. And we do have some criminal matters, as well as the private type of criminal matters. That's what we call harassment. That's where maybe somebody keep harassing you, cussing you out, that sort of thing.
Okay, interesting. Now let's just go back to the criteria for a quick moment, because one of the things many would associate legal aid with is not specifically having the necessary finances in order to fund going and getting an attorney and so forth. Is it that you need to have a portion of the finances available, or none whatsoever? You just come absolutely free of charge?
Well, the answer to that is almost twofold, in that Once, if it's a matter before the criminal courts, and it is a matter brought by the police or the state, then once the the judicial officer, either the magistrate, master, or the judge, if either of those judicial officers recommends aid, then the authority under our legislation will provide an attorney to represent the person in those criminal matters. When we speak about civil matters, though, our legal aid board has the mandate to review and determine the persons who should qualify for aid, and we strictly have to follow what our legislation says. So there is a strict criteria in terms of who will qualify, and and there are some matters where you would be required to compensate or give a small contribution to the authority. But we are able to indicate what that is, and it's generally for estate matters where the person receives sums. If monies are given to the person, then a very, very small contribution would be required. Outside of that, there may be some minimal nominal fees, maybe to have documents commissioned. But it's usually as much as possible the state is the person or the authority that covers the cost.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Of course, we've seen there was a mention that the applicant can't possess, I believe there was a cap of $20,000 in order to apply for the legal aid. So I just wanted to clarify that point. Let's go back to the matters what can be heard with legal aid and advisory. You said civil law and criminal law as well. There was a mention of the coroner's court. Can you expound on what proceeding requests take place there?
That is part of the criminal justice system. So you can be assigned an attorney by the court. It is for civil matters where there's an additional criteria, and legal aid and advisory authority through our act indicates what the requirements will be. So the 20,000 cap in terms of capital. That is one of the criteria used by the board to determine if you will qualify or whether aid should be granted to you for civil matters.
Excellent.
When it comes to criminal.
No, thank you so much for that clarification, Ms. Grant. Okay, Ms. Charles, bringing you back into the conversation, where can we get more information about the LAAA?
You can visit our website at laaa.org.tt. You can call any of our 5 offices. Our head office is located in Port of Spain, and we have 4 other district offices, Chaguanas, Arima, San Fernando, and Tobago. All our contact information, they are on the website for all of the district offices. You can also utilize our web chat service. We readily facilitate questions via the web portal, or you can insert your information in the contact form and a representative will contact you. We are also on Facebook at Legal Aid and Advisory Authority. We are also on Twitter and Instagram.
Excellent. It's wonderful to see that there are so many different avenues where we can access this information, which of course is key. Now, can we get a bit more information about the roving offices? What days and where can we look out for them?
Right. So you can look out for us in the Castara community this month, the 17th of July. We would be in Castara, and I just want persons who may be viewing this morning, who may be from the Palatuve, Lansford, Bloody Bay area where we served the last month, they are able to come if for some reason they were unable to on that day. So although we are at a particular community, it does not exclude anyone from any part of Tobago or Trinidad if you happen to be on the island from accessing our service. And then we move to the Runnymede, Mariah, Mason Hall communities on August 15th. And upcoming dates would be announced for Lake Coteau, Golden Lane, Mount Thomas in September. So stay tuned to our social media accounts as well as the website for more information.
Ms. Charles, you just answered my next question, which was how long is this going to be running for? Because it's wonderful to see these things take place. But of course, one of the beauties of this we would like to see is that it continues so that everybody has access to it. Tell me something. How does this line up with the mandate of the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority?
So the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority ideally serves persons of moderate means because we understand that not everyone can afford legal advice or representation. So going towards those small communities would allow persons who may not have the means of getting in an office to get the legal advice.
Definitely. And you know, the beautiful thing about it as well is sometimes it can be a bit intimidating. So it's wonderful to see that you're going out into the communities as well to have the conversations. And especially it's wonderful to see women represented so well, of course, in the fraternity as well. So Ms. Grant and Ms. Charles, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
all
you
the best
so much.
to your team.
Have a great day.
All the best to your team and have an excellent day.
You too. Thank you.
So Ms. Charles and Ms. Grant from Legal Aid in Tobago with their roving officers. I love the fact that they are going out there because, you know, many times when you speak to people, you say, all right, well, you need to just see if you can seek legal aid, go and find out. Everybody starts to scramble.
Oh, for sure. Like you rightfully said, it is an intimidating thing. Yeah. One of my first thoughts would be, oh gosh, the figures. You know, it will be expensive. And even having the conversation, all those terms and all those, it might be something that people will altogether avoid doing. So these two representatives were shining examples, and as you rightfully said, ladies, girl power, yay.
Definitely. So, of course, all of the links would have been shared by Ms. Charles. I love the fact also that everybody's on LinkedIn, everybody's on Twitter or X, everybody's on Instagram, so there is no excuse. You do have it at your fingertips now. Go ahead.
No, just saying, unless you do like to use it. And in that case, the Roving Caravan gives you the opportunity to actually meet them face to face. So you're right, no excuses. We're getting it done.
And we are getting it done, and we're getting it done right here on the Now Morning Show because it's Tobago Thursdays and it's not over yet. We have a lot more in store for you that you do not want to miss. We'll be back. I almost said in tune because I'm on radio.